Hey there. Welcome into another edition of Between the Lines. I'm Josh Ellis, editor in chief of Success Magazine, joined today by one of my favorite writers for success, Jonny Auping. Jonny wrote The Slow Drip Back to Routine in the brand new September-October issue of the magazine, all about his triumphant return after the pandemic to working in coffee shops. Jonny, I enjoyed it. Thanks for doing this today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So you have this falls in the lifestyle chapter of the issue, and that is, of course, all about how we work, especially for solopreneurs and people who work remotely. You have been a solopreneur, a freelancer for almost all of your
Yeah.
professional career, and this was working in coffee shops was just something that you did as a matter of course, like almost every day, right?
Yeah, I think that I mean there was one point where it was, I would say, an average of 6 days a week. And that was for like a good 2 or 3 year period.
Why was that more comfortable than just like from your couch?
I mean, a couple of reasons. I think one is if you're trying to get in a steady rhythm of working and you're trying to have like still have some degree of work-life balance, I think, which I assume a lot of people are going through this or have gone through this for the past year and a half working from home, is, that walk from your desk or wherever you work in your home to maybe the couch to watch TV is not, it doesn't feel like you're off the clock anymore. I mean, it's not enough of a separation. So part of it is just being in a different space. And then a lot of it too, when I was early in my career and I didn't have as many assignments as I do now and wasn't as established of a writer. I mean, it's like you're trying to make things happen. You're trying to like avoid getting discouraged. So a lot of the time it's just kind of like getting in the car to go somewhere feels like you're playing the part of someone who's productive and, and knows what they're doing. It's like, part of it is just, it feels like you're clocking into something and you're trying to make something happen.
I had a stretch at one point in my career when I was unemployed, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Like when there was no like structure to the day, I got pretty down about it, and lost a lot of motivation. And so
Sure.
this totally makes sense to me. And as I said, the headline is The Slow Drip Back to Routine. That routine aspect, just having something to kind of center your day and your work, you feel like it always made you do better work?
Um, it's hard to say. I mean, I think that, I've always been a writer and I think it probably applies to most professions of, if you're good at what you do, or good enough at what you do, then, when it comes time to where you have to get it done, you can get it done in probably any setting. But I think it's just sort of the getting out of your own head a little bit as a writer, which is like, because a lot of writing is, you're not, hopefully you're ahead of deadlines and you're not always on the day of a deadline. And so you have a lot of this like in between time where you should be getting work done or having ideas pass through. And I think the same, like on one hand, this sounds like a remedy to a home office, but I think it's also this, you get caught up in the same problems in an actual office building, where you work, of you're just seeing the same things every day and it all becomes monotonous. And coffee shops are nice because you can people watch. And I think, and you can go to different ones, you don't have to be tied to the same one. And it kind of like, obviously, I'm not saying that, I see somebody walk by wearing a funny hat and I'm like, I'll write about that person, but it's just more the idea that your brain is more wired to not get in a completely, it's like in a routine of thinking about things the same way. It's like you kind of said, is it good for a routine as a question? And to some degree it is, but I think like it's also helpful to not feel chained to a routine. Because if anything, if you're a freelancer, someone who doesn't work for a single company, like you have some freedom and luxury that, for all, there's a lot of drawbacks. Like I definitely know the drawbacks. So it's good to utilize the things that are pros, which is you aren't restrained. Like you can decide to work on a Sunday, and that sounds like a con, but the pro might be like, well, I worked on Sunday. Like I can kind of relax on Tuesday if I feel like it. And part of that, reminding yourself that, or reminding myself that, is kind of just like working somewhere random, like a coffee shop.
One of the challenging parts about the pandemic, aside from the existential dread that everybody dealt with to some extent, was you tended to kind of like get to know the people up there in a way. And I think you expressed at some point that you missed those little micro relationships in a way.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm sure that's like, it was a version of what people have in their offices, of like, they know their coworkers better than I know the baristas at the coffee shops near me, but like I did kind of know the baristas. I knew a lot of their names, and I hung out with some of them recreationally. Like, and a lot of it is that like low stakes, casual relationship of sort of like interaction with someone. It's like, if during the pandemic, if you lived with someone, like you're probably living with someone you love, whether it's family or a partner, and that can be like very you're embracing how great it is to spend that much time with them, and then like you're also focusing on not frustrating them, not being, not driving each other crazy after so much time spent together. And like to be able to have these little like catch ups that are, basically like a bunch of versions of the same conversation. You're asking about one of the three things you know about them, and vice versa. But I don't know, that's nice. It's like, and especially when you have a creative job where, when it's time to work, if you're not feeling super inspired, you're just kind of staring at a blank page, and there's nothing you can do about that. So it's nice that can feel super heavy. You can be really dramatic about that. But if you're kind of getting to say what's up to some people, or, just be around people doing their own thing, it kind of like breaks that up in a way that makes your workday not feel so dramatic.
Well, I love these kind of stories, these essays for success, because, there's only so many times that you can have a 13-point guide to productivity, or
Right.
The do's and don'ts of sales. Our work in so many ways is part and parcel to our lives. And, I think that the essay is a great slice of life, and it's a insight into a shared experience that we all had in one way or another over the last year and a half. So, Jonny, really appreciate you writing it for success. And I hope everybody out there will check it out in the September-October issue. It should be on newsstands everywhere or in your mailbox. Jonny, thanks for joining me today.